you would never think that something like this would ever be a thing. Like, say, what, AFTV was launched in, what, 2011, 2012? Maybe prior to that?
10 years, I think. 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. All right, so say in 2010, if I told you in 10 years' time you'd be on AFTV doing this, you'd be like, what the fuck's an AFTV? Why am I not on Sky Sports if I wanted to go somewhere? And now you can see that fan channels are starting to slowly surpass Sky Sports. Like me, I will mute the TV and I'll listen to a watch along from the United View. I like listen to rants because he makes his own content on his own channel. And I'll listen to those guys speak about my team because they understand your team or my team to a better level than a commentator would. And they're aware of all these little like small build-ups, these small issues, these little bits of play that they've seen game to game that start to accumulate and piss off fans that a lot of commentators who dip in and out of games wouldn't understand. So I think that that's where the future is. But I do worry that fan channels are hitting their ceiling and they're starting to be matched point for point with Sky Sports and the overlap, because the overlap have that exclusivity agreement to go and be direct with a club and they can get in compared to what fan channels can do. They may not have that leverage because, as you said, fan channels are unfiltered. They say exactly what they want, and sometimes that might upset people at the club and they might say, well, I don't want that person on, I don't agree with them, even though what they're saying can be factually correct. Whereas Sky Sports will have pundits that do that, but the brand of Sky Sports protects them.
I completely agree. But one, the Sky Sports rights are really only UK. These YouTubers reach global audiences, which is massive, and just in terms of the reach, right? So they've got a wider net, but the net that Sky Sports has is a lot more dense in the UK. But also, man, look, how do I put this? So there's a guy called Cecil on AFTV. One of the kindest guys you'll meet. Ex-footballer, does a lot of work now for footballers that have their contracts terminated when they're 16 to try and get them into another profession. He has managed to build bridges with Arsenal Football Club to such an extent that there are certain individuals who are coming onto the channel that wouldn't have necessarily come on before. So Robbie was allowed to interview David Dean last month. You know, one of the biggest personalities in Arsenal Football Club ever. A few weeks ago, he had Alex Scott in for an exclusive interview, which is also on YouTube. Right? These are people that you would never have been on a fan channel a few years ago, but they're bridging that gap. You know, and when the European pre-season tour, part of it was in Europe. I think we had Nuremberg, and then we went to Orlando. AFTV were allowed backstage to the presser and had media access and asked Mikel Arteta questions directly. So these are incremental steps in the right direction where they are getting that club access. If you asked Robbie 10 years ago that he'd have David Dean, Alex Scott and be in a presser, he would have laughed. So who's to say that in 10 years' time they won't have relatively unfiltered access to the club? Who knows, right? Who knows? And it also coincides with what I would say has been a real shift in stance with certain fan channels anyway. I think it's definitely happened with AFTV. I think it's definitely the case with United View, even though United View was never like this, where they're trying to really get intellectually stimulating content out as opposed to that pure let's let rival fans tune in when we lose style of entertainment. Because even though there are massive personalities on these channels now, the caliber of show, the element of discourse, the length of the content, the amount of thought that goes into it is completely different to what it was a few years ago. They've kind of moved with the times as well, which is why, as you rightly said, Sky Sports and all of these other people have had to really sort of step up and try and meet it in the middle because they've realised what's happening here. Look, the next 5 to 10 years could be really interesting, man, really interesting. And they're being interactive. Like you can send super chats in on YouTube. There's a full-time show on AFTV where you can literally send in your clips and just get them played out, and then we'll respond to them. And they bring in complete next man like me to be a part of their channel if you know, it's as interactive as you can get.
You can be the next Roy, man.
I didn't say it.
I said it, man. I said it. It's good to know about the fan channels not having an agenda and they just simply do things how they see fit. That warms my heart because I always want people to be themselves and to just say what they feel. Even if it's wrong and it doesn't make sense and they have this strong opinion, it's good to talk it out and then obviously get a different opinion and then level it if you can with somebody else who is a fan and who is on your side, who isn't going to be winding you up on like a troll job or anything like that.
That's the main thing, isn't it? The idea that it could be a right or wrong view is one thing, but every football fan is entitled to their opinion, and it's not up to anyone. There's no sort of ultimate arbiter of football opinions. You can have an opinion. All right, let me choose a United player that divides opinion. Sancho. There are a lot of players that will say Sancho has been doing a great job for the team. United fans. There are a lot of people that will say Sancho hasn't quite hit the heights that he ought to have hit. Those are opinions. Neither are conclusively right or wrong. But you get genuine football fans, match-going fans that go to every game and watch Sancho play for the exact same amount of time that have those differing opinions. And my point has always been, not just in football fan channels, but any walk of life, even if you disagree with someone, there's a way of delivering that message without being condescending or rude. And if you can strike that balance, then you get really interesting content, really thought-provoking content, and you cater, most importantly, to the entire fan base. Because there's no point in having a bunch of people that agree, because that's also not reflective of your fan base. There's no point in only having Asian fans on, because that's not just reflective of your fan base. There's no point in only having white men on, because that's not reflective of your fan base. And that's what these fan channels are getting really good at doing now, because if you can look at a sofa on AFTV now, you can see Robbie is a black guy, Charlene is a mixed race woman, Cecil is a mixed race man, Turkish is a half Turkish and half Irish guy. You've got me, you've got James as a white guy, Lee Judge as a white guy. You've got a complete mix of people. And it's just wonderful to see, man. And the reality is they're all just absolute dons, and we get along so well. And it's very much the same at United View. I watch you guys as well. You got Flex, but you got Owen. You got a bunch of people from differing backgrounds with very different styles that know the game.